You want to know where the best salespeople in the world come from? You guys are going to have a lot of aha moments. Rejection turns me on. There's one thing that we lack, and there's one word that's more important than any other word when it comes to your life. Everyone's dying one day, you're not taking anything with you, but you're going to remember the people that you do it with. Practice does not make perfect, only perfect practice makes perfect. Secret ingredient, I came back at the beginning, is figuring out a way to have a lot of fun with this occupation or this game. I don't think it's a job. Let's go. Hey, I gotta tell you something. You wanna know where the best salespeople in the world come from? Massachusetts, right? Right, it's in here, right? It's in here. And super grateful to be here with you guys today. Today you guys are gonna be hearing from the 16-year-old golf caddy. The one that started from nothing, right? Because starting from the bottom is not a deficit, that's a gift. Right, I don't know if you guys had silver spoons growing up in your mouth, but I didn't. Right, I grew up in a small town in Massachusetts. I watched my parents struggle. Got down there the last 20 bucks every week, and I said, hey, dude, I got to put my last name on my back. Right, during today's training, you guys are going to hear aha moments. Right, I might get a little emotional today because it's my first time being back in Massachusetts. This is where I'm born and raised. You guys are my people. Right, and it's crazy because when you travel all across the world, when you go speak in front of thousands, tens of thousands of people in China, when you're knocking doors in Canada, and you come back to Massachusetts, you're like, dude, these are my people right here. So give it up for yourselves right now. So I'll tell you right now, you guys are gonna have a lot of aha moments during today's training, right? We each have a challenge. The challenge for me is to give you the aha moment. The challenge for you is to actually program the information into your minds, okay? So I'm gonna tell you right now, not taking notes today is gonna be like eating spaghetti with a spoon. You're gonna get a lot on you, but you're not gonna get a lot in you. The goal is how you can get this information in you, that you can have these aha moments that triggers these thoughts within your mind to be able to help the trajectory in the direction that you move, okay? So like I said, there's gonna be a lot of these aha moments that you guys hear. I'm going to start off by telling you that decisions that you make decide your wealth. That's something I heard when I was very young, and it stuck with me my entire life. How many of you guys are in your first year ever doing door-to-door sales? Okay? First year, so a good amount of you guys are in your first year. I'm going to tell you right now, I have a secret I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to expose myself a little bit, but I've never worked a day in my life. I spent the last 18 years as a professional trick-or-treater. I don't knock doors, I exercise and I make friends. I don't knock doors, I go look for free lottery tickets, and the better I talk, the more that I win. I don't knock doors, I go on a grown man's Easter egg hunt. You see, rejection turns me on. I'm genuinely amused by hostile people. The thing is as door-to-door salespeople, we're one of the only creatures that faces rejection on a day-to-day basis. But guess what? I'm proud to do what I do as a professional trick-or-treater. I'm not a salesperson. I don't sell anybody anything. Right? I'm a servant. We should have been called servants from day one. You don't sell people anything. You help them get involved. You help them acquire. What you do, you should be proud to do what you do. And I think we each, spending all this time doing this, it's crazy to think like 17 years to be able to make a career, to be able to supply for my family. And we're gonna talk like real today. I'm gonna get really into the most important things that I've learned over my course of my 17 years selling. I'm gonna talk to you guys about what you need to do if you ever wanna become a great speaker, different things, the technique, the attitude, the behavior, the fundamentals of what it takes to be a really good sales professional. Can somebody click the slides for me? And I want to kind of break this down. First thing I want to talk about is something called the practicing professional, okay? So if I asked you guys, I'm going to be engaging you guys throughout the entire meeting today, but if I was to ask you what a professional is, can you give me an example of a type of professional? Any type of professional. Athlete. Okay, what else? Musician. Athlete, musician. What else? Professional. Actor. Chef. Actor, what else? Accountant, what else? Medical, okay. Doctors, lawyers, dentists. What does a lawyer call their office? Their practice, right? So let me ask you a question. If I wanted to become a doctor, could I graduate high school and start performing open heart surgery? What would I have to do if I wanted to become a doctor? I'd have to go to school for 8 years. And would that school be free or would I have to pay for it? I'd have to pay for it. So I'd go to school for 8 years, and after I get my little paper that said I was a doctor and I had my certificate, could I then go on to performing open heart surgery? I'd have to go into something called residency. And if you get into residency, when you're doing residency, can you be earning like $300,000, $400,000, $500,000? No. So I have to go through this thing called residency. And then after I get through residency, then I get my professional contract. I'm going to be very blunt with you guys today. You all have your professional contracts sitting right in front of you right now. You see, when we talk about the doctors, the dentists, the lawyers, all these so-called professionals, compared to the sales professional, there's one thing that we lack compared to all the other professions. And that's that willingness to actually pay the price that it takes to be great. A lot of people ask me, like, hey, why would you still be knocking doors? Why would you still be doing this after 17 years? That's my secret. That's my secret, is the willingness to actually pay the price that it takes to be great. Deciding to marry the game. You see, most people are interested when they need to be committed. Most people are the warning when they need to be the example. Most people are a liability when they need to be the asset. Most people are just dating the game when they need to make the decision to marry the game. A lot of people need to commit now and figure it out later. A lot of people need to realize that risk is the down payment for success. Okay, you commit now, you figure it out later. So today's training, I could go in a bunch of different directions. I have all these different keynotes, I have all these things that I could teach you. But I want to teach you something. How many of you guys ever inspire to, speak on stage? Okay, some of you guys may, some of you guys might not. It's a skill that you acquire. I'm going to tell you right now, you want the spotlight, it starts with the street lights. It starts with staying out there. It starts with making plays, because you can make plays or you can make excuses, but you can't make both. A lot of people in this room need to stop checking their Facebook and start facing their checkbooks. Because this is the year you guys are going to make it. This is the year you got to put your last name on your back. Going back to that line, I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. So if not me, then who? It was now or never for my family. I said, hey, I got to put my last name on my back. I got to be the one that makes it. So here's the idea of what I'm going to teach you guys today. And if you ever want to speak in front of a crowd, I'm going to tell you, if you learn this one main idea, you will be in the top 1% of speakers out of everyone. I invested a lot of money in myself and speaking coaches, different people to help me get better. And this one speaking coach gave me this one idea, and it was worth the whole entire course just from this one idea. But if I was to ask you to imagine a tree, just a regular tree, how many leaves are on the tree? A good amount, thousands, hundreds, right? How many branches are on the tree? Hundreds, like good amount, right? How many trunks are on a tree normally? One trunk to the tree. So when you come to speak, I could give you all these ideas, I could give you the leaves, I could give you the branches, but it all needs to come back to that one main idea, and that's going to be the trunk of the tree. And there's one word that's more important than any other word when it comes to your life. Does anybody know what word that is? One word that's more important than any other word when it comes to your life. Anybody want to guess? It's purpose. Right? You need to ask yourself that question. Your purpose. What is your purpose? How many of you guys ever heard of the phrase, what's your why? Like, why are you doing this? Have you guys heard that?
That's my thing, bro. I tell them they have to have their why. That's what drives them.
I think what's your why is a great question, but I think there's a more important question you got to ask yourself. You got to ask yourself, who is your who? Who are you doing this for? Who is your who? Like I said, starting from the bottom is not a deficit. That was a gift. Watching my dad get down to his last $20 every single week, saying, hey, I'm going to buy you a pack of baseball cards at the end of the week. Didn't buy himself shit. And I'm listening to these audiobooks. I'm 14, 15 years old, worrying about my dad and how much money he has, and I listen to that decisions will decide your wealth. Who is your who? I want you to think about that, because we're going to come back and I'm going to ask a few guys to be vulnerable today. Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation. When you understand who is your who and you understand what that desire is, because it starts with the desire. You want to be really successful at this game that we call door-to-door sales. That's the top of the pinnacle, knowing who you're doing this for. When you're out there in 10-degree weather, when you're getting the door slammed in your face, when people tell you to get a real job, none of that stuff is amazing. It's not amazing to get the door slammed in my face. It's not amazing to have somebody tell me to get a real job. It's not amazing to knock in the freezing cold. It's not amazing to knock doors and have people not answer. But what is amazing is outlasting almost everybody, right? Spending 17 years as a professional trick-or-treater. Like I said, you can make plays or you can make excuses, but you can't make both. When we talk about a practicing professional, what we lack compared to all these other professions is the willingness to actually pay the price that it takes to be great. You see, we got a bunch of Pop-Tart salesmen. They expect to put it in the microwave for 10 seconds, come out and be great. It's not what it comes down to. It comes down to your technique, which is the words that come out of your mouth, the attitude, which is what you program up here, having an absolute certainty of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and who you're doing it for, and the behavior. What you do occasionally will change nothing every single time. If you expect to knock 3 or 4 doors a day and be super successful, it doesn't work that way. So this is my formula, right? I always tell people, they say, how are you able to get so many sales? And I say, well, it's because I'm Irish and I continue to get lucky, right? That's what I tell people. I'm Irish and I continue to get lucky. I do not judge my success on the amount of sales that I make. I do not manage the amount of sales that I make. I manage 3 specific things, and you might want to write this one down. Every single day, if you were grading yourself from 1 through 10 on these specific categories, and you could score 9 or 10s every single day, you are going to make sales. Stop focusing on the things that are out of your control. You want to focus on the things that you have influence on, otherwise you wear yourself out. Throughout your journey, or the continuous journey, you're going to have people that inspire you, and you're going to have people that drain you. I put all my energy into the people that inspire me. So these are the 3 things that I judge myself on. Number 1, at the end of the day, I judge myself 1 through 10 on my effort and input. Okay, that's something that I can control. If I give maximum effort and input on a day and I'm a 10 out of 10, I happen to get lucky a lot of the times when I have a 10 out of 10 effort and I focus on my input. The second thing that I focus on from 1 through 10 is how interesting that I am in the field. If you want to get somebody interested, we must be interesting. You see, people react to the range of your voice, the volume, the pace, the diction, even when they don't understand the words. You see, if you sound like every other person that's came and knocked on their door and tried to talk to them about solar, what do you think they're going to do? They're not going to listen. They're going to say, I already heard this. I already made a decision. I'm not interested. But the reason they're not interested is because you're not interesting. Simple. You're getting somebody that says not interested. You didn't create the curiosity. You didn't focus on your clarity of your voice, the repetition, the energy, the belief, the service. And you're going to hear me repeat a lot of things multiple times, but I'm going to give you the meat and potatoes of what it takes to be great. So 1 through 10 on effort and input, 1 through 10 on how interesting that I am. Sometimes if I'm not getting the result that I want in the field, I say, hey, how can I be a little bit more interesting? Oh, hey, sir, how are you? Not, oh, hi, how's it going? You know, the voice is one of your most powerful tools. And the third thing, which I've thought about this question for years, what does it take to be the #1 sales professional? The #1 characteristic of the #1 sales professional. I'm not talking about the guy that's number 7. I'm not talking about the guy that's number 4. I'm talking about the one that actually has the trophies from year in, year out of actually competing against the top door-to-door salesman in the entire nation. And my secret ingredient for all these years is having fun. You see, if you're not having fun, it's not worth it. It might be the most basic advice that you hear, but you got to figure out a way to make this a game. If it's not a game, then you're going to wear out. But if you can figure out to make this a game and you can figure out a way to have fun with it, and the way that you have fun is when you knock 3 doors and you set 2 appointments and you close 2 sales. when you know you can go get 2 to 3 self-gens every single day that you go to knock doors, that's what we call Operation Go-Go Gadget Bank Account. You guys remember Inspector Gadget back in the day? Right, that's when you get these checks, you know? 17K like Surge's rap songs over there, you know? So it's just like, for me, it's just, I have to figure out a way to have fun, and if I'm not having fun, it's not worth it. You see, these are all concepts, these are ideas, but it's got to be you that makes that decision. It's you having an absolute certainty, but having that crystal clear clarity, because clarity creates conviction. The clarity that you have, once you're able to crystallize your clarity, it creates conviction. You see, the top salespeople, they shine with something we call conviction. They have an absolute catching belief about themselves, their product, their service, their company. They have a catching belief. They have a myopic vision. Does anybody know what the word myopic means? It's I can't look left, I can't look right. I don't have any distractions. Like I said, you have to make the decision. Who wants to really, like, let's just cut the fluff out of the fluff. Who wants to really make it? Like, who wants to really, like, put their family on their back? All of you guys do. Clarity creates conviction, but we're all working towards one thing, and that's freedom. That's freedom to do the things you want, when you want to do it, for the people you want to do it with. Because everyone's dying one day, you're not taking anything with you, but you're going to remember the people that you do it with. You're going to forget how much money you make in a year, but you're not going to forget the people you want to do it with. My number one rule in business is do business with people you want to do life with. Trust, loyalty, longevity. Loyalty is rare. You want to be able to do business with people you want to do life with. If you guys said, Taylor, I'm not a wishbone. You see, there's 4 bones of every organization. There's wishbones, they want it. There's jawbones, they talk about it. There's knucklebones that missed the meeting today. And there's backbones that say, hey, I'm going to put my last name on my back and I'm going to go prove it. I'm going to go make it. I'm going to go set myself up for my family. Maybe you all know who your who is. I'll tell you right now, my who was always my dad, watching him struggle. Some of my who's right now don't even live yet. It's the kids that I eventually have. When I have a kid, I'm going to say, hey, I busted my ass for so many years because I wanted to supply. I wanted to be able to help my family. So I'm going to ask you guys to be a little vulnerable right now. Who is your who? Does anybody want to share?
My wife and kids.
Your wife and kids. And why you got to do this? Why do you got to do this for your wife and kids?
So they don't experience what I went through as a child. My kids think I'm rich because we don't tell them no.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally had to sit them down. I was this close to telling them Santa doesn't exist because they were acting up. This past Christmas, on something, it doesn't matter if you don't get me anything. Santa's gonna come through anyway. And I was this close to explaining to them. That's mommy and daddy busting your ass, going without presents for you to have. But yeah, they smartened up and we didn't have to do that.
You got to do it for your wife and kids, brother. Let's go. Let's give it up for him. All right. Who is your who? Who else wants to share?
My kids as well. They've just been through a lot over the past few years. Me and their mother separating and taking out of what we thought was their forever home, and then their mother getting evicted, so then just moving. I just want a place for them to call home.
Yeah, bro. Let's go. Let's give it up for him. All right, who's your who? Right here in the back. We'll go to you next.
Sometimes I feel like it's myself because like I feel like I want to see how far I can take myself, and like I would be letting myself down the most, or my past self.
Gotta do it for you, bro. You know, gotta become the best version of yourself, and you gotta put your last name on your back and say, hey, I'm gonna do this. Set up everybody around you. You got the opportunity. You gotta make a play. Let's give it up for him.
Make sure that they don't struggle like how I did growing up either. And I see my mom like take a bunch of crap from like her higher ups and stuff like that, and she would just keep her mouth shut just so she can keep that job to like support me and my brother. So yeah, that's really my who's who.
Let's go, bro. Become myopic and do it for her. All right, who else?
My mom and my daughter.
Your mom and your daughter.
I don't want my daughter to go through what I went through growing up, and my mom, like, when it was like blizzarding out or snowing out, I was like, as long as she's going to work, I gotta go to work. Like, I can't sit there and not go to work as long as she's
Yeah. Let's go. Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation. Once you really mark these things in your mind, it gives you a different type of drive. Let's give it up for her. All right, who else? Anybody else right here?
I would say in the beginning was actually both of my parents. They both work in factories.
Mm-hmm.
I always saw how many, like for years, living check to check. I know what it is to actually have only $40 in your bank account.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like an extreme sport that I don't want to play anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And now I'm married, I have a daughter. So I want to give my wife the ability to be financially free, and we can want to do all this stuff, buy a property, buy a house. It's all my family, you know, really.
Let's
But
go.
this beginning was my parents, I would say.
Let's give it up for him. So this is why, like, I don't go around and say, hey, like, Arizona salesmen are the best, Utah salesmen are the best. I will only say Massachusetts salespeople are the best because we're resilient. We're cut from a different cloth. Right? We have to go out and make the plays. If we don't make the plays, no one's making the plays for us. We've got to make those decisions that will decide our wealth. So now that you're familiar, and you know, a lot of you guys probably know who your who is, and you know it's up here in your mind. But if you really want to make it, this is what I would do. And some of you guys will do it, some of you guys won't. But I promise, affirmation without discipline is delusion. And once you visualize something you want to accomplish and you start to verbalize it, then you hold yourself accountable. Some of the greatest feats that I've ever accomplished, I had to verbalize it, and I did not believe I was going to hit the goal when I verbalized it. But as I actually took action, then I was able to actually achieve the things I want. First comes the action, then comes the motivation. First you move, then you have the power. Okay? So this is what I would do. I would go to that person, maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your dad, maybe it's your brother, maybe it's your sister, you know who your who is, and you give them a call and you say, hey mom, I was hoping that I could meet up with you tonight. What are you doing? Can we meet for dinner? I want to talk to you about something pretty serious. Don't tell them what you want to talk to them about. Say, hey, I want to meet you face to face, and I want to have a real serious conversation with you. And you sit down with them, and they're not going to know what you want to talk to them about, right? Just say, hey, I have to have like a real serious conversation with you. And sit them down and look them in the eye and say, hey, this is the year we're going to make it. This is the year I'm putting our last name on our back. There's going to be a lot of sacrifice that's involved with that, but next to the word sacrifice is success. Success is defined as the continuous journey towards the achievements of predetermined worthwhile goals. It's not goal setting that matters, it's the achievement of them that matters. And when you verbalize it out loud and you have people that are holding you accountable, to be terrific, we must be specific, writing out the things that you want in your life. Having crystal clear vision of what you want, why you're doing it, and who you're wanting to do it for. Clarity of vision, okay? You have that clarity of vision, you have something called TOD. Does anybody know what TOD stands for? Time on doors, okay? Time on doors. Fall in love with the doors. Fall in love with the game that we play. But if you get crystal clear with your who and you say, hey, this is the year we're going to make it. This is the year I'm putting our last name on our back. I'm going to show you how to do it. There's a formula I created. Another one you should probably write down. It starts with your desire, okay? You have an ardent desire. You have this burning desire of know who you're doing it for, why you're doing it. The desire leads to you having discipline. When you have discipline, you're able to go out and demonstrate, okay? So I have the desire, the ardent desire to know who I'm doing this for. I've created a discipline. I've gone out and demonstrated. Through demonstration, you start to document. Documentation. What documentation is your story. People start to see, wow, this person's killing it. They're doing this, right? I remember he used to be in my high school, and now he's driving around, you know, a Mercedes G-Wagon, or he's doing this, or he's doing that. When you start to document something, nobody wants to be recruited, nobody wants to be managed, people want to be impressed, and to impress other people, we must be impressive. When you're able to document something enough, then you're able to duplicate. Then you start growing something bigger than yourself. I think there's 3 people you need to find throughout your journey. You need to find one person you wish to emulate. You need to find one person you're competing with. You need to find one person you're mentoring. When you duplicate enough, then you disappear and you move to the next level. You're never going to disappear unless you duplicate. You're never going to duplicate unless you document. You're never going to document unless you demonstrate. You're never going to demonstrate unless you have discipline. You're never going to discipline unless you have the desire. It's called the 6 Ds of scaling your life and scaling your business. Because I'm going to tell you something right now, maintaining anything in life is exhausting. Building is energizing. Building your health, building your wealth, building your legacy, building your family.
Hey boss, do you repeat those 3?
Desire,
I know the
The 3 people you want to find is one person you wish to emulate, one person you're competing with, and one person you're mentoring. How many of you guys ever took a brand new person on the doors with them and said, hey, let me show you how this job works? Did you sell better or worse? Why'd you sell better? You told them what you were going to do, right? Every single time I get that answer, hey, I took somebody out in the doors with me on their first day and we had a great day. I'll tell you a story, and this is some gold right here. I have 3 kids that are coming out to shadow me. They're like 5-star recruits. They're like, oh, I made $86K a year last year. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm like, bro, don't worry about that $86K a year. I'm going to show you how to make that in a month, right? And I'm like, hey, come, I got these 3 5-star recruits with me. I'm driving out to the field. I'm listening to Rich Homie Quan some type of way, got the custom Breitling, you know? You guys know which song I'm talking about. Like, you ever feel like, and I'm like self-talking, like, let's go T, let's go Taylor. And I'm self-talking myself onto the way to the field. I pull up to a gated community. I pull up to the turf. These kids come out of like, you know, BMW 3 Series, like 330i or something like that. And nothing against that car, but they come out of the car and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna show you how this works. And they're like, all right, let's go. What house do we go to? I'm like, we're going to this one. I was like, let's go. I was like, they were already talking about it. What's crazy is his wife last night, she was cooking spaghetti and she was pissed because he was playing Fortnite, and she thinks that because he stays up and plays Fortnite all night, that's why the electric bill keeps going up. And I was like, they've been waiting for us because they just haven't had a chance because they've been so busy, but this is going to be the first one of the day. They were already talking about it, so we got our first sale of the day. And the kid's like, how do you know all this information? I'm like, don't worry about it. Because IASM, I am sold myself. The first person you need to sell is yourself before you knock on anybody's door. One of the secrets that I have is the things I think about create words. The words create an emotion. The emotion creates a feeling. The feeling creates a judgment. The judgment creates a decision. Closing is creating the decision. When I knock on their door, they think something. Words come out of their mouth. They have an emotion. They have a feeling. They have a judgment. They make a decision. So I'm the decision maker. I'm the assistant buyer. I'm like, bro, guaranteed I'm going to make this sale. Guaranteed. I knock on the door. I have a perfect presentation. My pace, my diction, my flow. Absolutely perfect presentation. And the guy goes, this is a gated community, you're not supposed to be here. And he slams the door in my face. I was like, bro, that was nasty. We're on fire today. We are crushing it, dude. That was fucking nasty. And this kid's like, what the fuck? The guy slammed the door in your face. And I go to the second door, and I'm like, dude, it's okay. It wasn't his wife I was talking about the spaghetti, it was his wife. And I go to the next door, and I go to the door, and I knock the door, and I go through my presentation, and the lady goes, this is door to door, you're not supposed to be here. Slams the door in my face. I'm like, bro, that was filthy, bro. We are on fire today. And this kid's like, bro, is this kid crazy? You see, as a salesperson is first off a person that can sell themselves to themselves. They have an absolute catching belief about what they're doing. The problem with that instruction, a salesman is first off a person that can sell themselves to themselves. The problem with that instruction is too many salespeople are out there, oh, I didn't get the sale, this is a bad area, oh yeah, I don't know if people want solar anymore, and they start focusing on the things that they do wrong. So as salespeople, from this point forward, my advice to you is do not focus on what you do wrong, only focus on the things that you do right. Leave it up to your upper management. Leave it up to the managers to help you on things that you need to improve on. I'm out there for an hour and a half. I'm on like door 7. The guy goes, gated community, slams the door in my face. I'm like, bro, we are on fire. And these kids are like, dude, what is this kid doing, bro? He's like, this kid crazy, bro? He's getting the door slammed in his face. I don't have a PhD, guys. I had a 1.8 GPA in high school, but I have a P.M.A, positive mental attitude. No PhD, but I got the P.M.A, positive mental attitude. Hour and a half into it, getting the door slammed in my face, I got a good look. She lets me in the house. We self-gens the deal. She said, hey, have you talked to Roger across the street? I said, hey, can you introduce me to Roger? She knocks on Roger's door for me. She gets Roger out of the house. We're doing the transaction on the porch. The lady on the corner is starting to look what's happening. I said, hey, give me 1 second. Hey, I'm just finishing up with Roger and Janine. Once I finish up with them, I'll come over to you. I go back to Roger. I close that one. Then I walk over to the other one. Now I got 3 self-gens. I've only been out there for 2 hours. But the lesson there is don't focus on the things that you do wrong. There's so many things that are out of your control when it comes to door-to-door sales. We're the only creatures that faces rejection on a day-to-day basis. How many of you guys have ever heard of who Tom Hopkins is? He's the author of a book called How to Master the Art of Selling. Right? He's my personal mentor, that person that I wanted to emulate. Like I said, there's those 3 people you need to find. One person you want to emulate and be like, one person you're competing with, and then one person that you're mentoring. For me, it was always Tom Hopkins because he teaches the how-tos, the meat and potatoes behind selling. I'll tell you a funny story about Tom Hopkins. He taught me this little game, and I want to play it with you guys really quickly. So throughout your life, you're going to find people that inspire you, and you're going to find people that drain you, okay? How many of you guys have a 4-digit code on your cell phone? All right, most people do. You need to put a 4-digit code on your mind. And he taught me this game. He said, Taylor, whenever I'm around negative people, I play this game out loud, right? I've actually done it a couple times on the doors too. But it goes like this. Somebody's negative around you, you go like this. You get your zipper, and you go zip, zip, zip. I am now in my positive shell. I'm going to show you how the game works again, and then you guys are going to play with me. Zip, zip, zip. I am now in my positive shell. Okay, get your zippers ready. Get your zippers ready. Come on, we're having some fun today. Get the zippers ready. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Zip, zip, zip. I am now in my positive shell. Here's the deal, though. You can do that around your friends, but you are not allowed to do it around your spouse. If you do it around your spouse, like, oh, I learned it from Taylor at the seminar today, I'm not going to be in charge of any divorces or anything like that. But you got to have fun with it, right? That's why you need to lock it in up here. Stay locked in on the way that you think. And the middle person, the person that you're competing with, I'll tell you another story is whenever I'm in these competitions, I remember I was in a competition with 512 people. It went down to 256, 128, 64, 32, 16, bracket style. You guys are getting where I'm going with this. And every competitor that I had during the rounds, I would take the picture and I would set their picture as the background of my cell phone. So I'd have to look at them and be like, bro, I'm not letting this person beat me. I remember I was in a house and the guy's like, oh, who's that? And I'm like, bro, it's not like that. It was like a picture of another guy on my cell phone. I'm like, I'm in a competition against this guy. It's not like that. And I used to always think my biggest competitor was somebody else. And a lot of the time you might be like, hey, well, if it's not somebody else, who is it? It's probably yourself. Your biggest competitor is yourself. No. Like I said, I can be nice, or I can be blunt, or I can be real with you guys. I'd rather be real with you and just tell you the things that I've learned throughout my journey. But my biggest competitor is the devil. The devil's looking for every reason to hold you back, right? To get you to smoke cigarettes, like do all these things that are not going to help you in your life. A lot of you guys probably should write this one down too, is you should write down what is my kryptonite and circle that. What is my kryptonite? What is the thing that's actually holding you back from becoming the best version of yourself to create the life of your dreams? You know, for a long time, like, dude, probably for like 3 years, I was a slave to my vape. The vape, I was a slave to that thing. Like 3 months ago, I threw that thing out. I haven't vaped in 3 months, right? This is a big win for me, right? And if you know, it's like, I was like, wallet, keys, cell phone, vape. Oh, my vape's not in my pocket. I got to go to a vape store. You know what I mean? I was a slave to it. And, you know, I quit. And the more that I talk about that, I'm never going to relapse and go get a vape again because I'm just holding myself accountable, you know, every time that I talk to you guys. So it's like we covered a lot, and a lot of it just comes down to you guys making that decision, having an absolute certainty of what you're doing and why you're doing it. Let's get back to the practicing professional. We want to get a little click ski here. If I went to the outside world and I said, what do you think of salespeople? What do you think they would say?
Snakes.
Snakes? Or, so if I'm in like Market Basket, they still have Demoulas Market Basket. You guys remember Demoulas? All right, so I've been here for a while too. So I'm in a Demoulas or a Market Basket and I tap somebody on the shoulder and I say, what do you think of salespeople? What are they saying? Annoying. What else? Pushy. Not a real job. All this stuff, right? All right, so I don't like that person. I'm going to go down aisle 9, right? I'm going to tap someone else on the shoulder and I'm going to say, hey, what do you think of door-to-door salespeople? What am I getting for a response? Right? Oh, door-to-door, those people are so annoying, right? They don't like solicitors, right? The thing is we should have never been called salespeople at the beginning. You're not a salesperson. You're a servant. You're in the business of helping people. You want to know a crazy change of thought? I don't even get paid for sales. That's the way I think about it. I do this out of a good willingness to help somebody. What I get paid for is the rejection. I remember I was like 19 nose deep with this lady, and she's just about to shut her door, and I said, hey, miss, just before you go, just to confirm, you want to opt out of the program and stay with the utility company, correct? And she said, yes. And I said, let's go. That's $800. Thank you so much. I just earned $800. And she starts opening her door a little bit, and she's like, what do you mean $800? And I said, lady, you're only the second person that's opted out of this program all day. When I get somebody to say yes, I do that out of a good willingness to help somebody because I can really put them into a better situation. But when I can actually get somebody to completely opt out of the program and stay with the utility company, that's how we get paid. So you're staying with the utility company, right? And she's like, wait, well, tell me a little bit more about it. You see, sales is a Broadway show played by psychologists. One or two things is going to happen. They're going to have a higher belief on why it makes sense to stay with the utility company, or I'm going to have a better excuse for them to move forward. They're going to come up with every excuse to tell me no. I'm going to come up with every excuse for them to say yes. One or two things is going to happen. I'm either going to have a higher belief. One of my best lines in sales is if I go through this process with you, you would do it. So the hardest part of my job is timing. Just what's so unique about your situation is when I put together the report, you guys get so much sun on the roof, right? This is how I sell, and I'm going to show you guys here in a second. I'm going to explain to you my whole selling style broken down to the actual ridiculous, but we should have never been called salespeople. We should have been called servants. The question is whether or not you have the willingness to pay the price with effort, with learning, with time investment, and with that dedicated sacrifice to make that decision to marry the game, to make that decision to say, hey, I'm going to go to my who, I'm going to tell them this is the year we're going to make it. Everything, another bar, like I said, I'm just giving you bars today. Everything you do off of the doors needs to be to get you into the groove when you're on the doors. Like I said, building is energizing, maintaining is exhausting. The secret to building is having fun. When you build your wealth, you build your health, you build your family, you build all these things, it becomes energizing. You're not going to work. But when you're in a maintenance mode, it will always become exhausting. So the success triangle for the practicing professional, your technique, which is the words that come out of your mouth, your attitude, which is what you program up here, which is the most powerful computer that there is, and your behavior. What you do occasionally will change nothing every single time. A lot of people are interested when they need to be committed. A lot of people are the warning when they need to be the example. That's what the three fundamentals that I feel like are critical in door-to-door sales: your technique, your attitude, and your behavior. Technique is the words that come out of your mouth. Keep it going. If your tactics are sound, they can't fight you. Your attitude, people buy because they understand what we say. They don't buy because they don't buy because they understand what I say. They buy because they feel understood. What do you think I mean by that? People are not buying because they understand what I explain to them. They buy because they feel understood. Does that resonate with you guys? People are not buying from you because they understand what you say to them. They buy because they feel understood. Keep it moving. Play.
We don't have audio.
Can you press the audio on the iPad maybe?
Give it a shot.
Okay. No.
Bring the TV up.
And you build tactics only one way. Practice, drill, rehearse. There is no other way to go.
This is J. Douglas Edwards. Another one, you want to write that down, circle it 10 times probably. J. Douglas space Edwards. J. Douglas Edwards, the father of modern day selling. This was the individual that taught Tom Hopkins. Right? When you have a nasty line, he has the funniest way to call it. He's like, this one is murder. And then he'll give you like the most fire line ever. But J. Douglas Edwards is known as the father of modern day selling. And the way that you get better is not by practice, it's by perfect practice. Practice does not make perfect, only perfect practice makes perfect. Somebody know who said that? Practice does not make perfect, only perfect practice makes perfect. Anybody want to guess? Nope. Nope. Jay Douglas is a dog, but his name is on the Super Bowl trophy. Vince Lombardi, right? Every year, Lombardi used to start, he said, this is a football. There's this many laces on a football. He talked a lot about the fundamentals. But this is J. Douglas Edwards, right? The GOAT, the actual GOAT of sales. We'll keep it moving. So now we're going to get into the fun part. How does Taylor McCarthy make sales? Okay? If I was to explain this to a bunch of 5- and 6-year-olds to make it so easy for everybody to understand, this is all I'm doing when I'm selling. I'm blending opposites throughout the sales process. What is sales broken down to the ridiculous? Communication and persuasion. Communication is not what I say. It's not how I say it. It's how I can make somebody feel. Persuasion, a lot of people think is a bad thing. Persuasion is asking the right questions to solve somebody's problems. I'm going to give you an example of communication mixed with persuasion, okay? So yeah, just to keep this very simple for you, sir, what we would propose is utilizing the back side of the roof as a power plant where you guys would produce your power on site and no longer be at the mercy of the power company. So like the easiest way for me to put it is the sun goes up, the bills go down. Actually, have you guys heard of the sun? It was invented maybe about 2 weeks ago. I want to get them to laugh, right? So I'm mixing between talking to them about the Kansas City Chiefs and the Super Bowl and how bad they played last night and something about some commonality and then going right back, like I said, you know, we're just proposing an idea to use your roof as a power plant. The sun goes up, the bills go down, you guys get crushed in sun. What was so unique is I was the one that put together the report for this location and you guys just get absolutely hammered in sun. What I do when I knock on the door is I use an app on the App Store. The first thing that I have when I knock on the door. So let's just say, let's pull this home up. All right, so like, let's say this is the home that I'm knocking, 7334, okay? Backside gets completely crushed in sun, right? Perfect house for solar. This is what I have pulled up before I even knock on the door. So what I can do here, the yellow indicates the hours they have sun on the house, and I can actually show them, hey, from 5 or like from 7 a.m. all the way till 7 p.m. you guys are getting absolutely crushed in sun. It's called Knock Buddy. It's on the App Store where I can actually pull it up before. What I do when I have this pulled up, and maybe my intro would go something like this. Oh, hey, sir, how are you? Hey, my name is Taylor McCarthy. Actually, the reason I'm coming by is like a little bit different. I'll pretty much just cut to the chase and give you the short version. This is 7334 Andover Road, correct? So they can't really say no. I'm showing them a picture of their roof. I'm personalizing the opportunity right off the bat, right? And then I might say, I was the one that put together the report for this location. I don't know if you guys saw the drones. Don't worry, it wasn't Russia, it wasn't China. Right? Get them to laugh a little bit, right? Because when you knock on somebody's door, the anxiety is here and the certainty is down here. My job is to shift that where they are now certain and they don't have any anxiety. Does anybody know the greatest enemy when it comes to sales? The greatest enemy. The greatest enemy when it comes to selling. Close. The greatest enemy is the client's fear. What is fear? False evidence appearing real. That's what fear is. The greatest enemy is the client's fear. The biggest hidden objection is they don't want to get screwed. They don't want to be put into a bad position. The hardest part of your job is timing. You're just looking for the time when it makes sense for the homeowner. There's psychology behind yes, there's psychology behind no. So if the greatest enemy is the client's fear, one of our biggest goals is to create curiosity and to actually help that family relax. If I was to break down my biggest fundamentals when I sell, it's these. Number one, I need to create curiosity. To be interested, you must be interesting. Number two, clarity. Clarity creates conviction, but without clarity, a confused mind always says no, okay? Repetition. You must hear, read, write, and say something 6 times to gain 62% of that retention. Repetition. I say the same thing over and over, like 5 times. Right? Sometimes you say it and they don't really understand what you said until you said it like the 4th or 5th time, and they're like, oh, I don't have to pay anything out of pocket? It's like, yeah, I said that like 4 times already. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, I can't afford it. It's like, you already said that. So curiosity, clarity, repetition, energy. When I was working with Serge at a company called 2020 Communications, one of the first meetings I ever went to, everyone's like screaming. I was like, bro, what's going on here? This is like a cult or something? And they said the people with the most energy make the most money. Enthusiasm is 51% of the sale. Enthusiasm is the spirit that I have within me when I go and knock on a door, my attitude, my belief, and my conviction. So I've created curiosity, clarity, repetition, energy, belief, having that absolute catching belief about your service, your product, your company, and helping somebody leads to the last one is service. You have to genuinely give a shit to help people. When somebody says no, that's when your job starts. The average sale comes after the 5th to 7th consecutive closing attempt. And then they find the excuse to say yes. What is an objection? An objection is a tactic used by the buyer to stall or prolong the final decision. Right? I learned something very valuable. You want to know what I do when I first hear the first objection, which, keep in mind, an objection is a tactic used by the buyer to stall or prolong the final decision. A lot of these aren't really objections. Anybody give me any objection, I'll show you how I handle it. Yeah, that's the thing. And I keep moving. Yeah, that's the thing, sir. And I just keep moving. Right? If they bring it up again, maybe I address it. Sir, you obviously have a reason for saying that. Would you mind sharing it with me? I don't like the way it looks. Yes, sir. Judy was a little dramatic, but she told me she looked at her bank account more than she looked at her roof. What color is your roof, actually? They don't even know the color of their roof. Right? You see, if your tactics are sound, they can't fight you. J. Douglas Edwards says the reason there's so much mediocrity in the field of sales is because people only know 1 or 2 ways to close a sale. It's because they're not dedicating themselves to the craft. They're not dedicating themselves to be great. Not saying that I'm great, I'm just saying that I've outlasted pretty much everybody because I've dedicated myself to this game. I learn a new sales one-liner, I try it out in the field, I'm like, damn, that shit worked. Right? Here's another fire one that I use when the sale isn't moving in the right direction. I say, sir, obviously they aren't, but if the panels were on the roof, what do you feel like your biggest concern would be? That's how you can find the real objection. Obviously they aren't, but if the panels were on the roof, what do you feel like your biggest concern would be? Learning different ways to handle different objections. Learning different ways to control the sale. The most powerful technique in all of selling is control. 1 or 2 people is going to command the way that the selling situation goes. I'm an assistant buyer. I take their hand. I lead them through the process. You see, the only objection that you face as sales professionals is trust. I even came up with a one-liner for that. So the only objection I face with you is trust. It's like having a cell phone with no service. All you can really do is play games. I'm not here to play games, so level with me. How much of what I said do you actually believe? If your tactics are sound, they can't fight you. I don't necessarily need to use all these one-liners. It's like perfume or cologne, right? If I spray myself with 30 sprays of cologne and I walk in an elevator, people are going to be like, damn, that guy's got way too much cologne. If I have no cologne, then I smell like everybody else. If I have just the right amount, then people are like, wow, smell good. Same way with selling. Learning all these different ways to be able to create the decision, which is otherwise known as closing. So I earn their trust, but that doesn't mean they're going to do business with me. If they fully trust me, I also need to earn their respect. This is what I talk about weaving or blending opposites. Communicate, persuade, earn their trust, earn their respect. You see, I'm aggressive, but I'm kind. I'm assertive, but I'm nice. Aggressive and kind, assertive and nice. Egotistically humble. Probably haven't heard that one before. Egotistically humble. Muhammad Ali says, hey, I'm humble at home, but I'm not humble in the ring. And when you go to the field, you got to look at yourself like a prize fighter. How does Muhammad Ali look at himself before he walked into the ring? Mike Tyson, he knew he was going to win the fight. But you know what these professional boxers have? Somebody name their favorite boxer. Lomachenko. Who said Jake Paul in the back? I'm just kidding. All right, Lomachenko's your favorite boxer. Lomachenko has really quick something that starts with an R. You know what that word? Reaction close, reflex, right? He has these quick reflexes, right? What happens if Lomachenko needs to think when a punch is thrown at him? He's going to get hit. How does a boxer normally get a knockout? Doesn't a boxer usually walk into the ring, throw one big punch, and the fight's over? He gets a combination. It's the same way in selling, okay? You have a combination to find the excuse for them to say yes. Well, that makes sense. Well, that makes sense. Well, that makes sense. Well, that makes sense. And you get these small little yeses along the way. It's accumulation, yes. A lot of people are like, oh, Taylor, you got another lay-down sale. I'm like, bro, the guy said he said yes 87 times before I got to the end of the sale. That's why it was a lay-down sale. I created the decision, which is closing. So for me to break down what sales really is, it's blending these things throughout the process. If you can learn to blend these things throughout the process and it becomes natural, that's how you get really good at selling. Keep going. So attitude, we talked about a salesperson is first off a man that can sell himself to himself. Keep it going. So this is a professional. I'm going to give you an analogy here, and I've kind of talked about this a little bit before. Why would any practicing professional spend so much money on a reception area? Why would a practicing professional spend so much money on a reception area?
That's the time that the clients spend the most with.
That's the
First impact when they see.
Okay, good. Why would a doctor put a big ass fish tank in his reception area?
People like fishing.
Yeah. So you walk into a doctor's office and it's got this perfect reception area. Are you going to feel pretty comfortable with the doctor? They trust you. Okay. So hypothetically, next month I'm going to Nebraska. I've never been there, right? Has anybody been to Nebraska in here? Okay, so you've never been to Nebraska. You're in Nebraska, you're sick as a dog. You're like, dude, you're in the middle of nowhere. You're like, dude, I got to find a doctor. It's 3 a.m. You find this doctor's office. You start driving down this road. It's dark. There's this dirt road. Then there's this long driveway. It's all dirt. There's this blinking light that says doctor. You're like, dude, what's going on here? You open up the door. There's these really like rattly stairs you go up. You go up to a reception area and it looks something like that. How are you going to feel? You're turning around, right? So what's a salesman's reception area? It's the first impression. It's your brain. You don't know what happens though, and I talked about this a little bit before. As sales professionals, you get out there, somebody yells at you, you don't get the look that you want, and you kick over the furniture in your reception area. And then you kick over something else. And now it's all messy. And it's 5:30 and you knock on a door and you have a perfectly good look. But you're not that contagious. When is a salesperson more contagious than any other time? Right after he gets a sale. But what does most people do right after they get a sale? Oh, I got one today. I'm going home. I'm going to the 99, right? 99's big up here, right? I'm going to get some buffalo wings, right? But that's the idea is people are knocking over the furniture in their reception area halfway through the day. The hardest part of your job is timing. I don't know if I'm going to have that good look at 8 p.m., but going back to the story of that was nasty, bro, I'm on fire today. Self-talk, one of the most important things that you can do. Sales are easy. Some do, some don't. So what? Someone's waiting. These are things that I say to myself, right? I'm nasty at sales. I'm the best. That's the way that you have to envision yourself when you go to the field, and that's why you have to spend so much money on your reception area, which is your brain. Being able to put a lot of mental protein in there every single day. Like I said earlier, the things that you do off of the doors needs to be to get you into the groove when you're on the doors. Making that decision, having an absolute certainty. Zip, zip, we already went over this game. Keep it going. Behavior, what we're doing off the doors needs to be you're in the groove on the doors. Boy, remember this guy? Play.
It's easy to.
We're talking about practice.
It's easy to
You can click it.
We just talk about practice. We sitting here. I'm supposed to be the franchise player. And we
You can click it.
talking about practice.
Yeah, click. We're talking about practice, right? Practice. This is the game that we play. So here's another bar for you. You guys feel like you're getting some value so far, or am I just talking up here? All right, good, good. So here it is. Ready? Let's get some clicks going. Clicks, clicks, clicks. Clarity creates conviction. Conviction creates the belief. Belief creates the energy. The energy creates repetition. Repetition creates the service. Service creates your life's work. And your life's work creates freedom. That's what you guys are working towards right there. But it starts with the clarity of vision. When you have the clarity of vision of why you're doing it and who you're doing it for, then this game becomes easy.
The day you turn pro is the day you realize that attitude in selling is everything. Attitude is something you have to build within yourself. You see, the most important thing
Is there
you got
water?
today is your enthusiasm, your excitement for the job that you do in certain people. People
Regular's
say
good.
yes to you more in your conviction, your excitement, your enthusiasm than anything else. And if you don't have it in here, you can't transmit it out there.
This, they drill, they rehearse. How often do you sit in front of the mirror and give your presentation and they laugh? Yet you studied so hard to pass an exam and
It's good, it's good, it's good.
impress your parents. What we're giving you is material that will impress everybody because of your
Thanks.
income. Give them the best. They'll thank you. That I can promise. I spent the last $150 I had to go to a seminar, and the man teaching it, I can honestly say, all these years later, had a life-changing effect on my life. And that can happen to you when you go to a program with your mind open and you listen carefully, intently. You do your very best to take the pearls, those certain things that are said that can change your life if you apply them. That is the real key. Take the ideas, apply them tomorrow. Have a greater income. Be the person of your dreams. Thank you so much.
So that's Tom Hopkins. You can give it a click. That's it's probably one of the best things that's happened to me in my whole sales career is finding somebody that I wanted to emulate. You know, finding someone that could create that vision, creating the roadmap for you. And, you know, I get emotional thinking about it because Tom could have picked anybody to take over his business. He brought me to China. I spoke in front of 70,000 people. I'm just this kid from Pepperell, Massachusetts that had a 1.8 GPA in high school that got into this thing called door-to-door sales when I was 18 years old. I always tell people it was all fun and games in China until the girls started taking pictures with me and they had these makeup filters on it. And like I'm looking in the camera and I got like lipstick, eyeshadows. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna look like a woman on the Chinese TikTok over here. But it was a great experience, you know, being able to speak, being like the underdog, being the door-to-door salesman, you know, that had an opportunity to, you know, really take over for the greatest sales trainer of all time and, you know, carry on his legacy, which is something that, you know, I'm really putting everything I have into. I just finished How to Master the Art of Selling 2. It's a sequel to a book that sold 6 million copies. And, you know, I'm just a kid from outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I'm no different than anybody else in this room. You know, I just dedicated myself to my craft and realized that these decisions that I would make along the road, the roadmap that would create everything that I wanted in my life, which is really what I'm rooting for you guys. And the last thing I wanted to share with you guys today, and then go into any questions that you guys have. Sometimes I do these things and I'm like talking for an hour and a half and I'm like, Brandon, I don't know if I felt that was like 15 minutes, so I don't even know how much time we've been here today. But these are the most important lessons I've learned. Those were my best stats in roofing. I did 114 roofs in 11 days. In solar, I did 74 transactions with 65 installed in 30 days while traveling across the United States, and every single sale was on camera. And then in alarms, I did 45 sales in 6 days. These are the most important lessons I would share with you guys. Number 1, do business with people you want to do life with. Number 1, do business with people you want to do life with. Number 2 is alignment, trust, loyalty, and longevity. 3 of the most important things that I care for in any sort of business relationship. Number 3, first comes the action, then comes the motivation. First you move, then you have the power. Number 4, visualize for what you want, but verbalize if you want to execute. When you affirm it out loud and have people bet against you, that's how you accomplish things. A lot of people are suffering from self-doubt while others are intimidated by your full potential. I'm going to repeat that. A lot of people suffer from self-doubt while others are intimidated by your full potential. There's things that motivate you, there's things that demotivate you. Most people are living in a constant clash where they're almost paralyzed because they want these things to motivate them, but then they're sitting there with self-doubt and they're almost paralyzed, like they can't move forward because they want these things like money, achievement, all these things that motivate you, but they're being held back by these demotivators like self-doubt, what people think of them, all this other stuff. So the greatest motivators of all is not money. The greatest motivators of all is the need to reach that next level of comfort and the need to be challenged. When your back is up against the wall, that's when you can go prove yourself. Those are the two greatest motivators. The need to be challenged and the need to reach that next level of comfort. The two greatest demotivators is burnout and boredom. You see, if I challenge myself way too much, I'm going to eventually become burnt out. If I get way too comfortable, I'm going to eventually get bored. So you need to find that line of saying, hey, these are the things that will motivate me. These are the things that will demotivate me. But like I said at the beginning, you're not focusing on the things that you do wrong because then you go into a maintenance mode. You focus on the things you do right, and building is energizing. Number 5, you have to play a game. You have to have fun, and you have to keep your eyes on the scoreboard. Keep your eye on the ball, but when you pay attention to the scoreboard pays attention to you. The reason I didn't lose was because I didn't want somebody else to have the opportunity to say, oh, I beat Taylor McCarthy in the sales competition. Right? I just didn't want that. I realized that losing was not an option. When I was in that bracket-style competition, it got down to the final 4, and I was in Southern California selling alarms at the time, and they said, the final 4, we're going to fly you to an undisclosed location. I remember I had a Boston Red Sox hat. I just got a fresh haircut. I'm driving to the airport. I don't even know where I'm going. They announced I'm going to San Antonio, Texas. I'm like, I put my Boston hat on. I'm like, bro, I'm putting my city on my back. I can't fly to San Antonio and lose this competition. I won the first Final 4 matchup. I go to the Final 2. It's like 11:45 at night. I'm up 3 sales. I'm up 3 sales at 11:45 p.m. at night. I'm like, all right, I got this. The kid runs 4 credits. He was sandbagging. I was like, bro, losing is not an option. I went back to the trail. I got a sale at 12:30 a.m. Installed by 12:50. The cutoff line was 1 a.m. I won by 1 sale. I had this one guy where I was like, hey, if I absolutely need it, I'm coming back. Swear, true story. My tech's name was Sammy Machado. He can vouch for this. I knock on the door. The lights are completely off. I'm like, shit, bro, I'm going to lose. I knock on the door, ring the doorbell. No lights are coming off. They're all sleeping. I was like, dude, I got to do it. I walked to the side of the house. I started knocking on the bedroom window. Lights came on. Got the sale installed at 12:59. Because losing was not an option, right? Losing was not an option. That's what it came down to. These are all true stories. Everything that I'm teaching you guys, there's a lot of sales trainers that will teach you things that are based on a theory and these cool ideas, but it's not based on actual experience of actually being out there in the field. That's why I take the camera on the doors with me. If you guys that don't follow me on YouTube, that's a great university for you guys to watch the actual nitty-gritty of, like, I take the camera on the doors. I take the camera on in the house. I always tell people one of my new hobbies is when I have the Karens or people that get really upset, like when they're like flipping out at me, I just like to, my new hobby, like say if you were the camera guy and like we were in an argument, in the middle of the conversation, I just turn to the camera and be like, all right guys, so whenever you're in this sort of situation, this guy's a little upset right now, but, and I did that. The first time I did it, the guy called me a communist. Right when everything's happening in Cuba, I was like, sir, why would you call me a communist? It has nothing to do with nothing. I was like, you sure you're like not missing, trying to get me like another word or something? And I turned to the camera, I was like, all right, so this guy just called me a communist. We got to have fun. And this guy's looking at me, and like he's in the frame. And it's you couldn't catch it on, the camera didn't catch it, but I will never forget this. He walked away, he goes, what is this, an effing infomercial? But it's like, where do I get energy? I get energy from yeses. I get energy from, I never see failure as failure, but as the ability to be amused by hostile people and to be turned on by rejection. I never see failure as failure, but only as a learning experience. I never see failure as failure, but only as the chance to develop my sense of humor. You see, it's not how you handle the success, it's how you handle the rejection. Everyone's supposed to be motivated. Everyone's supposed to have a good attitude when things are going right. It's how you can have a good attitude when things are going wrong. Here's another bar. Frustration plus dwelling. You get mad, you quit, or you withdraw. Frustration plus creativity is how you get better. He who angers you controls you. If you've never heard that, you should probably write that one down too. He who angers you controls you. Like I said, people inspire you or drain you, but he who angers you controls you. I read that on a church banner, and I remember like the guy, I was in a house for like an hour and a half, and the guy's like, I never wanted to do this. I just wanted to hear your presentation. I'm going to go sign up, but I'm going to sign up online. And I was ready to flip out, and I was like, he who angers you controls you. I'm just going to give it away to the neighbor. Gave it to the neighbor. The sign went up. I put the sign up right in front of the mailbox. I went back over to the house, and I said, hey, just so you know, you're not getting it because I gave it to your neighbor, but every time you walk out, look at that sign because that could have been yours, but God bless you. Walk off to the next house. I don't like to argue with people on the doors, right? And you want to know the best way to handle when people get crazy? And you guys are going to love this one. When somebody gets mad at you on the doors, just say, hey, I apologize, sir. You know, my upper management sends me out here in the 20-degree weather. Just blame upper management because everybody has upper management, right? Always blame upper management, right? I apologize, you know, the upper management, you know, told me that I was supposed to actually show you the report that they put together. You know, they have me going door to door out here. It's ridiculous, you know? So you just have to have fun, right? And you have to build that commonality throughout the process with these families that you serve because you don't have customers. You know, I could give you a whole nother training on the words that we use. I don't use the word customers. I use the families we serve. I don't use the word appointment. I say we pop by and visit. I don't sell anybody or they didn't get sold. I help get them involved. I help them acquire because your vocabulary helps you or hurts you. Everything you say in the sales process, there is no neutral within that process. So play the game, have fun. Eyes on the scoreboard. Number 6. Including your family on the journey. A huge important one right here. My wife and my dad, right? A lot of the who's that I work hard. You know, I'm fortunate enough to have a wife that allows me to travel and supports me throughout the process. Another controversial statement I'll make right now, but it comes from J. Douglas Edwards. J. Douglas Edwards says the number one reason for mediocrity in men and women in the 1950s and 60s was their spouse. Not being on the same page with their spouse on what they wanted to build. It's hard to build alone, it's easier to build together. When the communication is what makes the vision a reality, and when you can communicate, that's what will really help you grow. Contact beats content. The more communication that you have with your partner or whoever that might be, it's a lot easier to, you know, build your life. So including your family on the journey, you know, hey, I'm going to be doing all these things, but in May, you know, I'm planning out a trip to go to Ireland. One of the things on my bucket list, you know, my dad's 61. His health is deteriorating. He's not in the best shape right now. His legs hurt. He just had issues with his heart. You know, like these are things that I'm not going to wait until something bad happens to say, oh, I didn't do all these things that I wanted to do because then it's too late. So, you know, I'm going to work real hard. And I told my wife, and then I'm taking her mom, I'm taking my sister, I'm taking my dad. We're all going to go on a trip to Ireland. We're going to rent a car. We're going to go, you know, find the original McCarthy's, right? And do those type of things. And that's like why I work so hard is you have these memories and things that you can create. And, you know, like I said, if not me, then who? And that's the way that I think about it because this job allows you to get whatever you want. It's not like somebody's telling you you're worth $20, $25 an hour. You can make those decisions and say, hey, I'm worth $1,000, $5,000 a day. I'm going to go prove it. Number 7, temporary imbalance is how you get ahead. A lot of people say, like, I did 162 flights last year, and people are like, how were you able to do that? And I said, I'm living a little bit imbalanced now, but it's all going to balance out later in my life. I'm not missing my kids' games when I have kids. I'm going to be like, you know, I'm going to train my kid to be in like one kind of sport, whatever. Just like, I just think about how many of you guys have kids? How many of you have kids that play sports? That must be so damn cool to watch your kid like score a basket or like a touchdown or something like that. Like that's eventually like something that I think would be so cool. Like, you know, eventually, and how many of you guys want to have kids? right? You think about that feeling, like watching your kid score a touchdown or like stiff arming another kid or something like that, you know. But like those are the things that like I work hard for now, that I'm not gonna miss those times when they grow up, because I pushed hard, you know, early in life. Number 8, research and development. I always think 2 moves ahead. I'm playing chess, I'm not playing checkers. Number 9, communication is what keeps the vision a reality. And number 10 is vulnerability. Like I said before, vulnerability is going to be the birthplace for innovation for you guys. And I think the secret ingredient, I came back at the beginning, is figuring out a way to have a lot of fun with this occupation or this game. I don't think it's a job. You know, I think you guys are professional trick-or-treaters. That's the way I identify myself. I identify myself as a professional trick-or-treater. I understand by being a professional trick-or-treater, it's allowed me to create a purpose, to surround myself with people. And when we talk about building, when we talk about purpose, when we talk about your identity, I think the thing that makes it happen is the people that you surround yourself with. You can go really far, you can go really fast if you go by yourself, but you can go really far if you go together. And that's why number 1 of my most important things is doing business with people you want to do life with. And you know, if you make that decision today, you know, to say, hey, I'm willing to put my last name on my back, I'm going to my who, I'm telling them this is the year we're gonna make it, I'm rooting for you guys. We're door-to-door salesmen. We're looked at as underdogs. People tell us to get real jobs, right? You know, someone once told me you have a real job when you start making big boy money. You know, if you guys watch my Instagram, I had some guy tell me, get a real job. I said, bro, you want to compare your bank accounts? He's like, how does your 401k look? I said, it looks pretty good, man. Do you want to compare? Come on, let's pull them out. And he wouldn't pull them out. But going back to, guys, the opportunity that you guys have, you know, I came here for free today because I'm friends with Serge. He's a good friend with me. Yeah, Ken, I've trained Ken for years. You know, I've known of Chris for years, and you know, you guys have great leadership. You have people that want to see you win, that actually want to see you get to the next level. You know, throughout my life, I've met a lot of transactional people that, you know, just look at you like a dollar sign. But when you can work with people that actually care about your success, that are rooting for you guys, you know, before I walked in here, I heard that energy in the room. And if you can take that energy out on the doors today, tie your success to the effort and input you put in, how interesting you are, and how much fun you have, you're gonna make plays. You can make plays, you can make excuses, but you can't make both. So thank you guys for having me. I guess we can open to any questions, anything that you guys want. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I sell any freaking offer. It don't matter, cause you know I do this proper. See me in my Nikes, I ain't dressing dapper. Ram, I'm a stone cold trap.